26th at 9 o'clock, we'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see large attendance today. There must be a hot item for discussion today. We'll begin with dispensing of the minutes from February 12th. Is there any corrections or modifications to the minutes from February 12th?
I don't think we should dispense with the whole minutes. Just
read well. There you go. You don't want to get rid of them? It didn't happen?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsom, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Today's agenda. Is there anything that would like to be added to today's agenda?
Morning, Commissioners. I'd like to petition a ditch committee of the whole next Tuesday at 1 o'clock to discuss County Ditch 10. We'll have the engineer in the vicinity, and we can talk about repair works that we're going to have on County Ditch 10. So, ditch committee of the whole next Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
Next Tuesday.
And Mr. Chair, Bob, I won't be there.
Okay.
March 5th at 1 o'clock. Do you want to add that to an items for consent to schedule a committee of the whole at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, add it somewhere where you'll vote on the actual motion. So either add it as a consent or put it on as a timed item.
If there's no opposition, I would recommend we just put it as a item for consent to add the ditch committee of the whole at March 5th at 1 o'clock.
Item F.
Item F, yep. Do you have a motion for that?
So second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, second by Commissioner Potter, to add the ditch committee of the whole on March 5th to the items or the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Secondary modification, I'm going to take the committee minutes on items from consideration and move that to 9:20, and I'm going to move item G 9:20 to after the 9:30 hearing, just for respect to people's time. Okay. So what I'm going to ask is that we keep the minutes at least to a minimum in terms of readings.
With Chair, with those changes, I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda.
All right.
Second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Burrell. I have a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any further discussion? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's agenda is approved. Today's consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from today's consent agenda for further discussion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Hewsom. Any further discussion? None being heard. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's consent agenda is approved. Next, we have moved on to timed item 902, Sheriff Derringer, and an introduction of a newly promoted sergeant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you. This is the second time that I have done this. The promotion of Mike Lindquist to patrol sergeant came as a result of the approval of additional patrol sergeant last year for this year's budget. So it was approved for January 1st. It became effective on February 15th. Mike has been with our office for about 18 years, 13 years spent as a detective in CID, and a couple of years in narcotics, SIU. So the entire time I was the CID lieutenant, Mike was one of the detectives. So obviously he proved to be very effective and efficient. For 3 months in 2015, while I was gone at the National Academy, Mike was actually promoted out of class and took over the day-to-day operations of CID as the sergeant for those 3 months while I was gone. So I think I've often said, many of you have maybe heard, I don't believe that you need to be a supervisor in our organization to be a leader. I think Mike has proven throughout the years his effectiveness and efficient and being able to coach and mentor his peers. So he has certainly gained the respect and privilege of his peers and supervisors. So I wanted to just introduce you to Mike Lindquist, newly promoted patrol sergeant. Yeah. So.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving right along here, County Assessor Tony Rasmussen, 903.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here once again to schedule our County Board of Equalization. I sent a memo out a couple weeks ago, and we had a recommended date. On that memo, we're hoping June 17th at 4 o'clock will work for everyone. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, last year it got a little hectic before that meeting. We had people making appeals up to the day of the actual meeting. We'd like to set a limitation to the Monday prior to this meeting to accept appeals, to give our staff the adequate amount of time to go out and review property and prepare for the County Board of Equalization.
Mr. Chair.
Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony, I'd just like to say, when we had our truth in taxation, we had people that said, I didn't receive it. It's incumbent upon the taxpayer, the owner of the property, you get a notice in the spring about your values. Board of Equalization, that's when you challenge your values. And just because you ignore it, your ignorance does not constitute a crisis on our part. When you get that, pay attention to it, look at it, see if you agree or disagree. If you disagree, right away, it has a number for you to call. Just to let you know, my 90-year-old mother-in-law, who passed away last fall, at 90 years old, still knew how to do that. So I figured the rest of us can figure out how to do that, because she, right away, when she got the value, what's going on here, call the number there, make the appointment. I mean, because she got it. I mean, and I held it up at Truth and Taxation, mine that I got for my properties. Here it is. It comes in the mail, addressed to you, the taxpayer. Pay attention to it, read it, make sure you agree, because once that gets set, because they always collect taxes 1 year in arrears, that number's set unless there was a fire or some other circumstance like that. But that's, you know, the Truth and Taxation meeting is not the time to argue your value on your properties. The time to challenge that is in the spring when they send that out, and the Board of Equalization, just to make sure they get that, because that we get a dozen every year that get that confused. And I'm saying, they send a notice out. It's not like it's a big secret.
That's correct. And the other thing too, you know, our first notices are going to be going out for local appeals the beginning of April. We will be finished by the end of April. So this will give people at least 5 weeks to figure out whether or not they're going to want to appeal at the county board level.
Appeal their valuation.
Correct. Or classification.
Or classification.
Yeah.
And then the Board of Equalization is actually appealing the tax that was charged, correct? Or
No.
No, that's truth
no,
and taxation.
If
truth
they're
and
not
taxation, that's what I meant,
Yep.
truth and taxation.
Truth and taxation is,
said that
yes,
wrong.
that's
Yeah.
correct.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to set the Board of Equalization for June 17th at 4 p.m.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Be aware, in June 17th, I'll be in Washington, D.C., so that's incumbent upon Commissioner Vetch to be there at that meeting, because you need somebody that's been trained in this. So you make sure you're there.
Otherwise, it's going to cost us.
Yeah.
It'll
Double
cost us
check, but
plenty.
it looks like it. I am good to go.
How soon, we can still get trained though, too, can't we?
No,
It's already closed?
For next year, you'd have to be done by February 1st, I believe that date is.
Mr. Chair, can Tony explain to what I meant by that? He's got to be there. Can you explain that to people? What?
They all need to be, not all of them, we need at least one certified member to be in attendance, and Chairman Vetch went through the process, took a test, and prior to that, Mike had been doing it. We need to have that member available in order to have the meeting.
Otherwise, what happens?
Otherwise, per appeal, I believe there's a charge, there's a fine by the Department of Revenue for, I think it was like $500.
Bucks. I think that's what it was. Yeah, $500
Per appeal.
per property.
appeal.
Yeah, per appeal.
It can get real costly.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. Any other further discussion?
Just, I want to make sure you include that deadline of the week before as part of the motion. Is that
So would that be Monday,
yeah.
be the
June?
10th of June?
Okay.
The other thing.
I will
the other
include that in the
thing-
motion that appeals need to be filed by June 10th.
At the end of business day on June 10th.
A second.
All right, and these,
If I could, past practice has been that we've done this by appointment. If we continue to do it by appointment and make appointments available until 7 o'clock, we can adjourn that meeting if people don't apply for an appointment by that time.
okay.
So let's say we have a couple and we're done at 5:30, we can adjourn the meeting at that point in time.
All right?
You're accepting the same terms?
Yes.
As well? All right. Any other further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. June 17th is the Board of Equalization. Please file your appeals by June 10th at the end of the business day. Okay, timed item number at 9:06. Chief Deputy Attorney Asselson.
Morning, Mr. Chair, board members. The item you have before you is to authorize signatures on purchase agreement between Wright County and Howard and Mary Bremer. As you know, we held several closed sessions. I lost track of how many, but there was negotiations back and forth between the sellers and the county on this property, which is kind of the last remaining parcel up near the law enforcement center and the new justice center. So you have the purchase agreement in your packet. They have signed it. The sellers have signed it. We have tentatively scheduled actually a closing for this Friday, March 1st, which was the seller's wishes. And because we're paying cash, it's not a, not a lengthy process as if there was financing involved. So we are scheduled for, I think it's maybe 2 p.m. on Friday. Any questions?
Hello, Mr. Chair. Yes. Mr. Chair. Brian, I looked over the purchase agreement, and everything that all of us had discussed that we were looking for was in there, so I'm happy for that, and went over a few times. I couldn't see anything that we missed, or that you missed in there that were concerns here. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the signatures on the purchase agreement between Wright County and Howard and Mary Bremer.
I'll second that.
And I have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Houston for the purchase agreement on the Bremer property. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Motion
Brian.
approved.
Brian.
All right, 9:08, Auditor Treasurer Hevola.
Good morning, Board, again. The first item on the agenda is to approve the January budget report. Again, January, we're in the modified accrual basis, so a lot of our transactions that we incurred in January accrue back to last year. 1/12 of the year, there's really nothing for me to draw your attention to. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I ask you to accept the January budget report.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the January revenue expenditure budget report.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Burrell to approve the January revenue expenditure report. Any further discussion? None being heard. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Plat approval.
Yes, Board, we received a plat called West Ridge. This is in Rockford Township. The proper fees and the proper signatures are in place, so I'm asking you to approve West Ridge addition in Rockford Township.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Houston for the West Ridge plat approval. Any further discussion?
Just a quick question. How many plots or lots?
How many parcels on that?
Yeah.
Commissioners, I don't have that written down here.
Okay. I was just curious. Yeah.
Didn't say.
Any other further questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Plat approved.
Mr. Chair, Administrator Lee Kelly, the plat is in the back with the proper pen, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we go on, even though it's not on the agenda, Thursday morning is the hearing for the case of the Auditor Treasurer versus Wright County and Becker County. And I just want to make everybody aware that the hearing's about 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's the last I'd heard it was.
Yeah, and it's, because the tax committee hears things early in the day. And that I think it would be incumbent upon us not only to have Mr. Kreiser from the attorney's office there, but also our auditor treasurer there, because any questions that come up, they'd be able to answer it. And in those kind of hearings, the weight of the auditor treasurer will be a lot more than like a commissioner or a layperson out in the community, because you are the front line why they did this. Just to remind the public, Rebecca Otto, former auditor treasurer, state auditor, decided to pull us into a lawsuit, which was unfounded. It was challenged at every level, and she was defeated at every level, and she just couldn't take no for an answer, so she had to take it to the Supreme Court, which we still won. And now we're trying to elicit the legislature to reimburse Wright County and Becker County for legal fees in excess of $80,000 to defend ourselves on this lawsuit. I think it was a reach, and I totally disagree with what she was doing there. That's kind of an abuse of power to me, because just unlimited checkbooks, you can just keep going, and that's just not how you're supposed to do this. I mean, if Wright County had bad audits, I would see us being teched in this, but we've always had clean audits here, real clean, and there was no sense for it. I mean, I just don't know if she was running for governor and trying to get more attention in the newspaper. I have no idea what was the thought behind it. I did testify at the Senate on this issue, and when I got done testifying, I attempted to have a conversation with Miss Otto, but she did not want to talk to me at all, and I saw her at the state fair, and she didn't want to talk to me at all. And so it's like, I want to know, why are you doing this? What's the big deal here? But to no avail on this one. And it just befuddles me that somebody can just waste taxpayers' money like that on this nonsensical thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Potter.
That's my soapbox.
Commissioner, if I could just add two quick things. The current state auditor, Blaha, is behind this legislation too, to reimburse those counties named in that lawsuit.
Good.
And just to refresh your memory, the lawsuit was about our ability to exercise our right to choose our CPA firm.
Right.
That's in the statute. We chose it, and then we got named in the lawsuit. So.
Okay.
Great. Out-of-state travel, Sherry Nelson, IT Service Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm here this morning seeking your approval for one of my staff to attend a out-of-state to do out-of-state travel in order to attend a Cisco Live event in California this June. This has been budgeted for, and I had sent staff previously to this event 2 years ago, so we had a lot of benefit from it, so I'd like to send someone again.
I will make a motion to authorize travel for the senior system engineer for Cisco Live Conference, June 9th through the 13th, 2019.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewsom, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any other further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner
Thank you,
Potter?
Mr. Chair. Just for the public to know, this is a budgeted item, but anytime there's out-of-state travel by any department, they come before the board, so we're aware and the public is aware of what's going on, because the last thing you want to say, what do you send them out of state for? It's a budgeted item. It is necessary for the functionality here, and this is just a common courtesy practice of the department heads when it's an out-of-state travel, just so you kind of follow along why we're doing this. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, 9:15, I think we're running a little bit behind here. Highway Engineer Virgil Hawkins.
Good morning, Chairman Vetch and Board of Commissioners. Today I have 4 items for your consideration. The first item is to approve Cooperative Funding Agreement 18-52 for our Highway 19 and 38 project. And this is a collaborative agreement between the cities of Albertville, Otsego, Joint Powers Water, and Wright County. And this covers who's paying for what and responsibilities for maintenance for the upcoming project this year.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement, 1852.
All right, we have
Second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlin on approval agreement 18-52. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agreement approved. Item number 2.
Thank you. And so this item is to approve an amendment to the agreement that was just approved. This is the City of Albertville's request because they are negotiating to include some work at the outlet mall that would benefit both Highway 19 and the outlet mall. And so there's some items in the contract that are specific to Albertville, and this amendment covers those items that are not part of the federal project.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second
the amendment.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Burrell for the amendment to the agreement 18-52. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Third item, adopt a resolution supporting the application for a local road improvement program.
Yes, this request is, the state has a program, local road improvement program, grant funding that they don't have it funded right now, but they're soliciting projects that this legislative session, there could be some money that goes towards this. And so we're applying for $1 million to go towards our share of the I-94 project that's going to be between Albertville and St. Michael. So there's a resolution involved here.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution supporting an application for the LRIP program funds to go towards the I-94 project.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Hewson for the resolution supporting the application for a local road improvement program. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, this is a resolution. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
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 Fourth item, adopt a resolution of the support for the City of Annandale Local Road Improvement Program application.
Yeah, this one is the same program, and the City of Annandale, since they're a city under 5,000 population, they need a sponsor, that we would be the sponsor for their application. And in Annandale, MnDOT is doing a project to improve Highway 24 through town, and the city would like to include some city streets as part of it, and that's what their application is for, in the amount of $750,000. So this resolution is in support of their application.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution in support of the City of Annandale's local road improvement program application.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden for the adopting a resolution in the support of the City of Annandale Local Road Improvement Program. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, it's a resolution, sorry. Commissioner Dahlheiden?
Aye.
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 I jumped the gun.
Resolution passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil.
All right, we have 7 minutes here yet. I think we're going to try and accomplish some of these minutes here. We're going to do the Committee of the Whole from February 12th. Commissioner Dahlheiden, do you want to give a summary?
Oh, no, I was thinking I'd read the 23 pages of all this information. It's all very important. Yeah, the board met on the 12th regarding the Wright County Regional Inspection Program. Presentation was given by Alicia O'Hare on what the plans were. I am not going to insult anybody by reading this information. It is available on the county website under the board agenda and also under the minutes. So discussion was held on a number of different things, both for and against the regional inspection. There are a lot of different people have different opinions of it, and there was discussions on increasing the amount of lakes that went to it, along with the operating hours, the budget for it. And with that, I'd make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden and a second by Commissioner Hewson to approve the February 12th minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. We have still 5 more minutes. You want to copy or go over the workshop minutes?
Sure.
They were quite short, so.
Yeah, very short. So, Mr. Chair, thank you. We had our first ever workshop meeting on February 19th. All the commissioners were present, along with Lee Kelly, Alan Wilczek, Washing, Kivala, Riley, Goodham Schwartz. We also had members from BKV Group and 2 members from Albion Township. And the first item was the communications regarding facility projects. And the board essentially discussed items to include in the presentation regarding the facilities projects in the county. And we did present them also at the public meeting last Wednesday. The second item was to review the boardroom layout and commissioner areas, and BKV Group provided an overview of the latest iterations of the design of the county boardroom and county board areas. So essentially to have a larger area for when we have the planning and zoning meetings, we have a large gathering, but also to have 2 conference rooms with doors that would open for an even larger group. And the third item was scheduling future workshops and strategic planning. So we discussed the potential of changing the county board workshop from the 3rd Tuesday of the month to the 2nd Tuesday. It works better for meeting minutes and that kind of thing. And when our committees meet, it was, the consensus was to move the workshops to the 2nd Monday of the month at 10 o'clock. And workshops will start at 9 a.m. on dates when the quarterly leadership team meeting meets. And the upcoming agenda workshops are commissioner web pages and social media, child protection, taking a look at safe families implemented in Anoka County, and Families First proposed new legislative changes. That's for March 12th and April 9th. Legislative changes for 2020, and an update from Flaherty Hitt on the power plant legislation. In May is forecasting prior to the budget process, update on CIP projects, and looking forward to 2020 projects, and 101 on county investment and fund balance, and June 11th, strategic planning and budget. With that, Mr. Chair, I don't think that we just have the recommendation, essentially. There's no action items.
Just a minute. You already approved the minutes, yeah. So you have a motion, that was a motion?
To accept,
Yep.
I'll second it.
minutes.
We have a motion by Commissioner Husum, a second by Commissioner Dahlin for the approval of the workshop minutes on February 19th. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Commissioner Burrell, do you want to try and tackle this in 1 minute, or do you think we can come back to it?
I bet we can do it. During the snowstorm of February 20th, we had a committee of the whole, and it was held in the evening to get some public input toward looking at whether we do something with the building here or build a new government center out next to the Law Enforcement and Justice Center. We had about, 10 or 12 brave souls that made it in, including us, I think. It was a small thing, but we had a great discussion. Commissioner Vetch put on a little presentation kind of showing the different options, and there was considerable favor, I think, some from the public. The few that were here got it, that kind of liked the downtown location, and I think we all do, it's just whether we can make it work was the question. So, and again, these minutes, like Commissioner Leiden said, they're available on the website, so there was really no recommendation, it was just informational. And I think the people that did come, though, were, they got a lot of information that they were looking for. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I think the intent is to try and make that presentation somewhat forwarded out somewhere on the webpage that's easier for people to find versus having to dig through the minutes for it. Is that?
Yeah, we can get that out on the front section.
With that, though, I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes. There's no recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Husum for the approval of the February 20th minutes. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone, for being swift with that. We are right on time for our public hearing at 9:30.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Here to present to you ordinance amendment number 19-1. This is an ordinance enacting and adopting the supplements to the Code of Ordinances for the County of Wright, State of Minnesota. This is really just a housekeeping ordinance that just adopts any typographical changes that were done by the codifier through the ordinance codification process. So just to try to maintain consistency in the code.
I was wondering what it is, because we didn't get anything in
Really,
the
what
board
it
pack.
comes down to is sometimes we'll say, you know, this ordinance, and they'll change it to this chapter. So it's really very minor things just to keep the code consistent overall. So.
Is anyone here in the public here to speak to the codifications of the ordinances, ordinance amendment 19-1 today?
You need to officially open a public hearing.
Or should, the public hearing's already open?
Public hearing is open, yep.
Yeah,
You can ask
so,
comment.
is anyone here to speak to the ordinance amendment 19-1? Third time, anyone here to speak to the amendment 19-1, the codification? Hearing none,
Just make a motion, then we close public hearing, the public comment for
I'll
that.
second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dowland to close the public hearing on the ordinance amendment 19-1.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just to remind the public that all of our ordinances that are searchable and much easier than in the past are on our county website. So if anybody has any questions regarding anything that the county requires, you can go to the county website and do a search through the ordinances and find out any questions that they may have.
All right, thank you. Any other further comments? With not, I will
Mr.
move.
Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt.
We didn't vote
close
yet.
it.
We closed
You
public.
did- Oh, you didn't vote on closing
Yep.
it? Yeah, you didn't vote it.
No other comment on closing the public hearing? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, public hearing is closed. I'd like to move forward with adopting the ordinance amendment. Looking for a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now I will make a motion to adopt ordinance amendment 19-1.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter to accept 19-1, or second by Commissioner
I'll
Dowlett.
second it, but I gotta trust Dreiser on this, that's all.
I didn't sneak anything in there, Charlie.
All right.
Simply just adopting the supplement.
Any other further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ordinance amendment is adopted, 19-1. All right. Now we will circle back here to item G. Alicia O'Hare, Water Resource Specialist in the Wright Soil and Water Conservation, the approval of the Wright Regional Inspection Program.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So I am here to ask for your approval on the 2019 Wright Regional Inspection Program. Part of the reason that we do this is it was previously asked of the DNR Commissioner that the county board accept the plan. The Soil and Water Conservation District has already done so. So the plan was presented in the packet. And I'm just going to go through a very quick review of the plan with the changes that show up in 2019. So just a real quick reminder of what the regional inspection plan is it's a mandatory inspection program, and the mandatory nature of it comes from the county ordinance and approval from the DNR Commissioner, allowing Wright Soil and Water as a delegated authority to have such a program. The inspection station is off-site. That is the unique nature of it. It is not at the ramps. Instead, it is in Annandale. We have a decon unit available on-site to take care of any water-related equipment that are non-compliant, and so that they can then be compliant and launch as soon as that decontamination is done. It is open a half hour before sunrise to a half hour after sunset, from basically ice out until the end of October is the plan. We give all users a zip tie seal for their equipment and a receipt that proves that they did the inspection, so that we can track compliance at the ramp. You can get it inspected ahead of time, so if you're planning a trip and whenever is most convenient, users can go to the station ahead of time, and that inspection and seal is still valid as long as the seal is intact. But a violation of the ordinance can lead to a misdemeanor citation. So that's my 10,000-foot review of regional inspections. And just to show the changes we have this year, the biggest change is including more lakes. In the plan, you saw the full list of ramps that could potentially be in range of this station. We're not going to that full extent at this time. The 3 lakes that were previously included are East and West Sylvia, John, and Pleasant. That was a total of 7 ramps, 3 of which were private or just not, they don't have parking. And then this year we're proposing adding Moose, Sugar, Cedar, Bass, Granite, and Maple. It'll be a total of 16 public and private ramps that will be monitored. And then the other changes are a little more substance to them. The first is that we are going to put a big emphasis on the inspection quality this year. We are hiring an inspector coach and really going to emphasize quality inspections for AIS. And this is always a challenge with any inspection program and will happen regardless of the regional inspection station. We are adding a self-inspection program. This would allow users, most likely frequent users, to attend a course, pass a test, and then they would be authorized to bypass the inspection station so long as they do their own inspections complying with AIS statute. Next is storage certification. Boats that are stored with lake service providers longer than 21 days can get an exemption from the ordinance. They would need to go through some paperwork with our inspectors so that that storage time is verified. And then the final one is adding spot checks. So this would be an instance where there is a authorized inspector at these ramps for several hours at a time. And what they will do is they'll observe behavior. So one of those things we'll get at is how many users are launching their equipment and not parking at the ramp. Lake service providers, weekend visitors that rented a cabin or just have a cabin for the weekend, that sort of thing. And just getting an idea of how many people aren't parking. Verifying the quality of the work that the inspectors at the station are doing. Is the seal put in the right place? Was it a good inspection? That sort of thing. They will talk with anyone who appears to be in violation and let them know about the ordinance and refer them back to the regional inspection station and help them prevent them from getting a ticket. And then one of the big things that they will do is they will perform exit inspections while they are there. So that any boats coming off the water could be subject to an exit inspection. And sorry, one final thing that I didn't specify here is that people who go through the self-inspection certification can be subject to a inbound inspection to verify that they're doing it, but that would take place at the ramp, just when they're there, so it would coincide with that. So that is the summary of the changes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Right. Mr. Chair. First, before we open this up, I want to kind of explain to people where we are at in terms of the process here right now. So what you just seen right there is a summary of the Wright Regional Inspections plan, their intent of how they would like to operate going into the season 2019. Now, at this point, they are looking for the county board's approval of this plan. At that point, if the county board approves the plan as they're presented, this is just a summary, but the actual detailed plan, they will then submit that plan to the DNR for approval. Now, us approving this plan as amended would require us to amend the ordinance. So that would trigger us to need to open at this time, if we adopt this plan, to open up a public hearing. And at which point, we will get comments from both sides of the issue to add to the record. That would basically open up a public hearing period of anywhere as short as 10 days to upwards of 30 days that the Board of Commissioners will decide how long that period of time will be. During that time, you can render written comments. You can come to either today, make a public comment, or at the final vote, make a public comment at that time. You won't be able to do it at both. It's either one or the other, because there will be a lot of comment that would be like to be placed for this record. So we will ask that if you go on record, that you will only be able to go on record once. If the plan is not adopted today, that point, then we would go we would need as a board would trigger us to need to repeal the ordinance. So if this ordinance isn't adopted, we will be asked then to repeal the current ordinance, in which case would end the program entirely. If the board decides that they want to keep the ordinance intact in its capacity that it is currently in and leaving the plan the same as 2018, in which case nothing would go forward, and then at that point Soil and Water would have to determine, in Soil and Water Board, if they want to keep it intact underneath those circumstances. From a procedural standpoint, I hope everybody's kind of understands where we're at in terms of the decision that's taking place at this time. With that, I'll ask for Commissioner Dahlin.
Alicia, that last slide that you had, how many times did you intend on being at the ramp for those inspections?
For the spot checks. And Commissioner, I'm going to ask you.
It was 200 days at 14 hours a day.
14 hours, okay. Yeah, the part of the budget comes out of the law enforcement
$65,000 would be what our contract would be with the lakes, or not the, well, the provider that's going to be doing the inspections. Basically, we'd be having inspection coaches or level 2 inspections working at the ramps. That 200 hours at 14 hours a day. Depends on how we flex it. It should allow us to be able to have on holiday weekends 2 of the 9 or possibly 3 of the 9 lakes with inspectors at it. And then maybe on some of your Mondays, we'd only have people out there 6 or 8 hours on some of the Mondays. But every day of the week, there would be at one of the 9 lakes, there would be an inspector at it. And then on higher weekends, we could have 2 of the lakes covered. For that $65,000. A remaining amount of around $25,000 or between $20,000 and $25,000 will be contracted with the Sheriff's Department to do supplement enforcement in coinciding with this program.
Thank you.
And that only happens if this is approved.
If this adoption is approved, yep.
Just the improved inspector training, I think, is in the self-inspection program. Some of those are a great idea to do, even if we don't increase the amount of lakes, if we just stay with what we have.
The hardest thing is then we would actually have to delay out if you wanted to do that, because the budget wouldn't work out, because we'd be subtracting out funds from other lakes that are going into this pool. So the sustainability might not be there.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dahlin, with the budget showing what all these added lakes are contributing, that's what constitutes some of the budgets.
I do want to note, well, I guess before I even note that, as a board here, we have 2 options here. We've had a lot of public comment at 2 separate meetings, bringing us to the point where this plan is at. I'm kind of inclined at this point for us to decide if we want to go forward, either repealing the ordinance, accepting this plan, or going with the current plan. But I'm open to, if you'd like to hear further comments, because 2 of those options will trigger us forward to get comments from these people going forward, because ultimately, even if you adopt this plan, it's not a for sure deal. The DNR could deny it. The final vote to adopt the ordinance could fail. So this is just one step in many steps to get final approval.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
I just want to make one quick recommendation, and that would be against keeping it just to the 3 lakes. Part of the reason we are strongly encouraging this expansion is it gets to the true benefit of the regional inspection station. Last year, we were able to find out what the minimum cost was, and we saw some benefit, especially to the lower use lakes. And now, as you bring lakes together, we should see more and more benefit of the regional inspection model, and that's really what we intend to demonstrate. So I would strongly recommend against staying with simply the 3 lakes.
And
Commissioner Brown.
Alicia, I have a question. Make a quick comment first, because I do see some value in, the pilot part of it, to see whether this would work. But I've asked before at these meetings, and I have not got an answer, and you probably know where I'm going. Once the Initiative Foundation quits funding this, and they will, where is the money going to come? Now, and if I can't get an answer to that, I really can't support it, because I know what happened when the Initiative Foundation made a kind of sidestep, say we're not going to fund it, when you're right over here, they're asking for county money. And now, I think there's a way forward on this possibly for the funding, and that would be any lake that signs up to be part of this regional inspection program would have to form their own lake improvement district, so they have taxing authority, so they could be funded. But I don't want, I can't do it in the format that it is right now. I can't support it, so.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, you can see that they all, you know.
Put in something, yeah. No, I got that.
Yeah.
But it's not enough if you took the initiative fund. Alicia, how much is the Initiative Foundation grant?
It is about 106.
168,000.
Yes.
So take and figure out a way to fund that 168,000, and then Charlie could be talked to, I guess.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I think that it's been pretty much a consensus that the county is not going to be financing this program, so that, we know that's off the table, but the Initiative Foundation funds are basically 19 and 20, and during that time there's some time that we could find that.
Well, and Commissioner Burrell, by all means, I've been I hate to say a cynic, but I've really poked holes on a lot of boats, and I tell you, I've sat in a lot of meetings to try and shore up this issue. I'm going to say I am optimistic that next season they're depends on what the model looks like, but they could be about 60 to 70% funded for 2020. Going forward beyond that, they're hoping that there's going to be some legislative money that's going to find value in this program, because there's about 4 other counties that are deeply interested in their larger counties that are watching it. That being said, if the goal at this point as a pilot program is, if we end it now, the future of it going forward is uncertain. And that, which if it fails in 2020, then it fails on its own merit because it didn't work. Then we at least allowed to see the Initiative Foundation funds fully utilized. My biggest concern that the program was the fact that, like, going into 2019, that if you were a resident of Otsego, St. Michael, or Monticello, and you were going to use lakes like Maple Lake, that it was a unfair burden to ask these people to go to Annandale. I mean, I look at myself with my wife and my 5 kids. If we were going to go to Maple Lake, I'm not going to go 10 minutes all the way to Annandale and 10 minutes back. That's quite an egregious expectation. But I was able to, working back and forth between the recreational users and between those at the program, we've made some compromises, and that's where we felt like the self-inspection piece, similar to that what you'd take to get a snowmobile certification, was a fair expectation. It was both sides. As Commissioner Potter would say, if both sides aren't happy, then you probably got the best answer. Yeah. So it was kind of in that middle ground. And with that piece, that's the reason I was saying I was going forward for another year to get some more information, so that we can see how the self-inspection piece plays out. So we can see how having inspectors enforcing it at multiple ramps or at individual ramps, entireties of days, and getting those metrics plays out. That way I feel like the DNR and the county and Soil and Water would have better data to decide going forward into 2020. That's kind of my skinny on.
And Mr. Chair, I've really been happy with the progress that's been made with the AIS discussions and talking to people, and the fact that when you look at what the inspections cost just to be open, bringing in all these 6 more lakes, really makes it an economy of scale, so it makes it much more efficient and cost-effective to run this, because the inspectors will be busier. I also appreciate the self-inspection training, because people that do a lot of boating, they have that option that they can go in and get the certification, so they don't need to go through the inspection site unless they need to do some decontamination. They find zebra mussels or some other invasive on their boats, then they can go through the decontamination. They know that ahead of time. I also like that we're going to have the inspectors at the sites, and we're not sure you know, when different ones will be where, but we've got that many hours, what they're going to be covered, and they can do both inbound and exit inspections on people, whether they've been certified or not. It's just a second set of eyes that will help to find anything that are, any invasives that are hiding. So I've been, you know, the buy-in from these lakes, the lake associations, they're spending a lot of money to try to get a handle on these invasives and to stop the spread, not to keep people off the lakes, but they don't want somebody getting an invasive in their lake and then taking it to another lake. So with that, Mr. Chair, I mean, if you're ready for a motion, I would move that we go forward with the ordinance changes and to adopt this.
Commissioner Houston, before we get a second on this, and I would ask that you would make a friendly amendment to the program, that you would add a repealer date of February 5th, or sorry, not February, April 15th, stating that if without DNR approval by April 15th, the program then would be, we'd move to repeal the ordinance, just because we have to be able to be on our feet as far as from the soil and water side. Previous history with applying to the DNR on this, we have waited months for answers. The hardest thing is we can't operate this program until we have an answer from the DNR. I don't want us to be getting all the way into mid-May or even June and not have an answer from the DNR, in which case we have basically have staff that are standing doing nothing with this program whatsoever. I need to force the DNR to make a swift decision on this matter. Mostly I pick April 15th because I needed to come back to the Soil and Water Board. If it was turned down from the DNR, that would give Soil and Water Board an opportunity to pivot in terms of how they'd like to allocate those inspectors, because if we'd have to go back to a previous model, which I would expect would be the route if the DNR turned down the program, that would be the decision you'd probably be pivoting to.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, clarifying this, so if this new proposed changes, new ordinance does not pass, you're saying, if it doesn't get approved by the DNR,
by April 15th,
then we would go back to our other ordinance?
No, the ordinance entirely would be repealed, and we would go to a pre-2017 model. That basically we wouldn't be operating a regional inspection program, because if we don't get adopted from this plan, we would be then going back to just doing those 3 lakes, in which case I don't think there's any intent from those in the program at this time at all to operate under the existing model. So in which case I'd be wanting a repealer to go to a pre-2017 model.
If I just may make a small clarification, Mr. Chair, we don't even have authorization from the DNR to operate on the 3 lakes.
So then in that case, it would basically repeal the ordinance entirely. But I as much as I don't want to put a repealer in there, I feel it's required because we're getting down to the wire here, and I need to have an answer from the DNR so that Soil and Water can make a move as to which way they're going in terms of how they're allocating the staff, and so we can get people out there one way or the other. Because the worst thing that could happen here is that we don't have an answer by the DNR till the end of May, in which case we're not doing any inspections, you know, and we're not allocating anybody, and that I don't want that in the meantime. So,
it seems like that's a little, you know, I don't know, if it's a little premature to include that in the motion at this time. It seems that when we have our public comment period, perhaps then would be a time to.
Well, because it would be part of the ordinance. The amendment to the ordinance would be to have a repealer that if we don't have an approval by the DNR by April 15th, that the ordinance would repeal on its own.
You know, you guys keep talking about the DNR. Is anybody from the DNR here? Nobody?
I believe they had a conflict. I did invite
them. They were afraid to come. Conflict or not, they were afraid to come.
I mean, we're giving them almost, what is that? We're at 45. We're giving them 50 days to make a response, which, I mean, it's not. It would be. I'd be saying it would be egregious if I was asking them to rule it in 2-3 weeks. But I mean, we're giving them 6 weeks. If they're holding on to it for longer than 6 weeks, then their intent was probably to kill it anyways. I need them to I have to hold the carrot out there for them to make a decision and not just hold us hostage.
Well, the thing is, they have to be a partner.
They do.
I mean, the only way this will work on the long term is that regional inspections will have to be everywhere like there is in other states. And all lakes would have to be involved in it. To do it with just a small amount of lakes doesn't solve the problem. It would have to be throughout the whole state of Minnesota.
well,
I wholeheartedly agree.
We all agree on that, and
You know, so you have to have DNR as a partner in it. And if they have no intentions of ever doing something like this, which it would be an incredible amount of money, you know, I know some people have said, well, we should have exit interviews or exit inspections at every lake that is currently contaminated, along with decontaminations. That model, the cost would be outrageous. I mean, we really couldn't afford to do, nobody could afford to do that. But I do have one concern, you know, that we do have a campground on one of these lakes. So we're gonna have people coming from wherever, go to the campground and then realize they have to go get their boat inspection. And then come back to the campground. And they pull the boat out at night, put it on the trailer. I'm assuming that they wouldn't be required to have to go back to inspection again because they haven't gone to any other lake.
if they haven't crossed the roadway.
But the other issue is that at that park, we had 405 boat launches last year at that park that weren't campers, that were just day users. That's a lot of...
Not the campers, it's the other people that are coming to access that. Yep.
That would make things tough, I think. And that's just at Schroeder Park. That doesn't include the other access that the DNR controls. And that's my concern, is that, is the DNR going to work with us on those other access where they do the inspections? Or are they going to be having inspectors there? And
well, the DNR won't be doing any inspections. You know, they still have their program where they go around and they'll spend an hour at one ramp here or there randomly. Mm-hmm. But they're not. I mean, that's the reason we're trying to robust this program, was to actually take that 200 hours and basically have those people moving around from those 9 lakes. And basically the goal of this program was that we'd say out of that 14 hours, we may have them 7 hours on a Thursday at Maple Lake, and maybe the second 7 hours on Sylvia. Then the next day they might be 7 hours on Pleasant, then they might be 7 hours on Cedar. The idea is the general public won't have an idea of where these individuals are. We're still collecting exit inspections.
But the DNR was the ones that did the inspections at that other access.
No, they didn't. No.
It was...
So if I may clarify, Mr. Chair, the Cedar Lake, the DNR did do some inspections and even on occasion had a decontamination unit at the DNR access of Cedar Lake. It was also staffed by soil and water inspectors throughout the season as well. So it was a bit of a I don't believe the DNR was ever at Schroeder Park, but they were at the DNR access. Does that answer your question?
We're duplicating then.
Well, they will, if the regional inspection goes through, they will not, the DNR will not bring in any inspectors.
They'll move their efforts to other lakes within the county.
Correct, which is what they did on Sylvia in 2018, because they used to, in 2017, early 2017, they had inspectors, and they also brought a decontamination unit there on occasion due to the zebra mussel infestation.
And, I mean, with that, it seems that DNR would definitely be on board with this, because that lets their inspectors, you know, cover other lakes that aren't covered in these 9 lakes. But
Well, we've been having a discussion
Yeah.
when we only had one motion, and there was no second to it.
No,
you
I didn't call 3 times. I was discussing it. It's the point. Is there a second on? Well, first of all, did you want? You were not a friendly amendment to it? Then I'm assuming.
yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit torn about that. Does anyone have comments about if that's appropriate?
Well, Mr. Chair, if you have the right to call the question.
Call the question, yeah.
And if you're looking for further comment, then I'll comment, but if you're going to call the question, then we need to do that.
I mean, I'll call the question on it, so there's no opposition to calling the question on it. We have to get the agreement to call the question on.
The motion maker is the one that calls
the question. Would you want to call the question on that then?
Well, I guess this is really, I guess we need the DNR. We need the DNR to support this. If that's going to make them bring a decision in support of this, I believe that they are in support of this by April 15th. I just hate to add that part on at this point, but.
As much as you and I have worked very close on this, Christine, and I wouldn't have put this in there if hadn't talked with staff and really vetted out all the issues that would come if we didn't have an answer by April 15th. I feel like at least it gives us some motivation for them to be swift about it. So, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable with it,
I guess I just have overwhelming numbers of people in support of this, compared to the handful of people that have expressed not support. So
Mr. Chair.
I will
Mr.
I'll accept
In
that.
light of not calling the question, I'd like a little bit of discussion.
Sure.
Is Heidi Wolf, Adam Dahl, or Christine Hokala-Coons in attendance today?
I do not believe so.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because sometimes people hide, but when you call their name out, if they don't stand, then it's got other things.
I did invite them, but they indicated they had conflicts, so.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. When we started this pilot program, if you recall, I was more instrumental in pushing this because I am a resort owner on a lake, and what's happened in Cronus is deplorable, what's going on there. In my personal experience with this going on, DNR has not been a partner on this, a good partner on any front on this. Roadblocks, in fact, I've elicited the help of Senator Bill Ingebrigtsen from Douglas County, former sheriff and chair of the Natural Resource, and to try to get Mr. Landwehr to get off the dime here. What are you doing? Where do you stand on this thing? Only to get no action anywhere. And Heidi Wolf, one time when she was here, talked things, asked a couple questions, really didn't get a response. And it wasn't until they found starry stonewort on Medicine Lake in the metro is when all of a sudden she did a flip on, oh, we got to do something. I mean, I'm having a challenge on where these people are at, on what is their function and job. I mean, we did this pilot program going in blind, not knowing what's going to go on. The Sheriff's Department, they have some numbers for us and some information of what it actually cost us to do this, and that is a true taxpayer cost to what's going on here. And how do you square this? And if the DNR is not on board with this, it's really tough, because I mean, I know they got legislation or proposed legislation to AIS and make block grants and all this, but you know, it's like anything else down at the Capitol. What goes in the funnel, it looks a lot different when it comes out of that funnel. Once it gets into a conference committee, it gets torn apart and chopped up, and who knows what comes out of it. I'm questioning whether they're really going to be on board with this at all. Personally, I think they should, as a resort owner and a boat owner and all this, you know, and if they have to raise my boat fees for this, I don't have a problem with that. But then I want them to be accountable for this program, to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, because we have a nice natural resource in this county. You know, Sherburne County doesn't care about it because they really don't have any lakes. Well, they have a couple, but not like us. You care about the quality of lake, but whose job is it? Is it Wright County Sheriff's Department? No, it isn't. It's the DNR's enforcement and our Sheriff's Department. And I'd like to hear from Mr. Former Chief Deputy and Captain Todd Hoffman to remind the people how much it really cost us last year in enforcement and time and actual budgetary cost. Because these are important, because those that are on the other end of the county that don't see this are going, you're spending my money here and I'm never going to be there. And you gotta be kind of sympathetic to them while you're trying to still make sure that whatever's happened on Cronus doesn't start happening to us. But again, where I'm tripped up here is the DNR not being lockstep with us on this, and this is a problem, because we can do all this stuff and they say, nah, or just make no decision at all, like Commissioner Vetch wants to have a repealer on this. make them step up and make up your mind. You're either on board or you're not on board. Because I was hoping that Sarah Stroman, the new commissioner, would come out and talk and be part of this, but.
Yeah.
Commissioner Potter, I sent out an email invitation to her. That's the reason, I mean, I'm putting the repealer in there is because they historically won't take a stance on it. They've been riding the fence both ways on it, and I need to hold their feet to the fire to make a decision, one way or the other. Because if, based with this here, by giving them a date, they can't just sit on it for a long time and torpedo the program from afar. And that's, I want them to be able to take a hard stance on where they feel about the program, so we decide whether this pilot program has merit in the long term or not. Because, I mean, ultimately at this point, I'm still uncertain, but I'm willing to play out the pilot program because both sides of the issue, at least to some degree, obviously I can't get everybody, but there's been some back and forth to try and make this program workable.
Mr. Chair, I know we're trying to follow Robert's Rules of Orders, but when there's a motion gets put on the floor, there's no discussion until there's a second. So maybe we should go back.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. So I will ask for a second. Do we have a second on Commissioner Hewsom's to adopt the plan as stated? Not accepting a repealer. I want to make sure that that was noted. A second time. Is there a second for Commissioner Hewsom's motion to accept the plan in its current state? Third time, do we have a second to accept Commissioner Hewsom's adoption of the plan? For the lack of a second, Commissioner Hewsom's motion has died. We're back to further discussion here. Any other motions?
Mr. Chair, like I said, I don't want to be making a motion to end it, but I can't support it going on, and if that's our two choices, I guess that I would make a motion then that we go back to the 2017 deal and where each of the lakes get their allocation and whatever. I cannot see this long range without the DNR funding it or some other funding source. So I think at that point, we're trying to expand something right now without any future in sight. So
Commissioner Burrell, your motion is to repeal the ordinance.
To repeal the ordinance.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell to repeal the ordinance. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? For a third time, to repeal the ordinance by Commissioner Burrell, do I have a second? For the lack of a second on Commissioner Burrell's motion to repeal the ordinance, the motion dies.
I'd make a motion to table this until next Tuesday so that we can have DNR at the table to come up with, to give us some ideas on their thoughts behind this whole thing.
Commissioner Carney, he has a motion. We can't discuss it. So we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlleiden following Robert Rules of Orders. I will look for a second. Once again, to table the issue till next week by Commissioner Dahlleiden. Do I have a second? Going a third time.
I'll second that for discussion's sake.
Okay. There is a second by Commissioner Burrell.
I don't know where else we're going to go otherwise.
Now, I'm going to say, because once again, we are down to such a short period of time that we cannot stretch this thing out any further. At this point, I would incline that if anybody tables this out, that you're posturing to end the program, and at some point you need to bite the bullet, because a decision has to be made. Because if you delay it a week, you're now putting a public hearing till possibly the first week in April, in which case the program couldn't even operate until maybe somewhere in the middle of May, by the time it would go through the DNR process. But
I don't mean to light a fire under the commissioners, but just a note, I will not be in the office during April and May. So the sooner we can get things lined up, the better. So just a small push there.
Even if we installed a nursing room?
I'm sorry.
the hardest thing is we need to give soil and water time to pivot which way we decide. Because if we decide not to run the regional inspection program, we need to give the contractors as well as soil and water time to allocate the resources. So as much as I'd love to be able to give us more time to get more information, I don't know that it's going to help the situation. I guess if you have a comment that went by aiding to the issue there, I'll.
Well, I do.
Mr. Chair, do we need to
You still have a
pass
motion.
Yeah,
anything
you have a
before we
motion,
have?
and there really is no more.
There's no motion
discussion.
standing. There's no more motion. Who had the motion? We already went 3 times and it ended.
No, Charlie
I
seconded that
Seconded.
motion. That was the
For
third one.
tabling it,
I said for discussion.
For discussion, yeah, so we're discussion, yeah.
for tabling it.
For tabling it.
There is
Yeah.
no discussion for tabling.
There's no discussion.
Oh, then I would,
Okay,
well, still, I second it.
okay, seconded. Well, then, so then I guess at this point, we're going to vote for tabling it. All right.
Mark really knows those rules
Rules.
good too.
I forgot about that one, yes. See, I'm glad he's good at parliamentarian. All right, all in favor of tabling the item to, was that next week, which is March 12th?
No, it's a.
Be the 5th.
5th, I'm sorry, March 5th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye.
I abstain because I won't be here, so.
So the motion dies on a 3-1, with an abstention from Commissioner Houston because she will be absent on March 5th. Bringing it back to the board here, if you have some information that you'd like to render.
My name is Doug Flatz. I live at 5077 Quist Avenue Northwest. I am a retired accountant, and I've been working on this project virtually since the beginning. I get numbers thrown at me all the time. I can't stand here and offer you a pot of gold that would guarantee sustainability after the grant is out. It doesn't exist. But there are things you can do to make that possibility easier. Like any business, if you lose income in one source, you have 2 choices: increase revenue from another source or reduce expenses. Increasing revenue, the easiest way is to add additional lakes that are within the 15-mile radius to bring in their revenue into the program. The second is to keep on pushing the state legislator to create pools of funding that are sustainable. And we are making progress. Both Senators Ingebrigtsen, as you mentioned, Commissioner Potter, and also Senator Anderson, we had a very good meeting with them last month, working on both those issues, existing pools and new legislation to create money. They are about to send that over to their counterparts in the House. Hopefully we can get something done in this session. Beyond increasing revenue, you can reduce expenses. This whole project is in excess of, not counting land acquisition or site improvement, is over 80% labor costs. You can see that that gets to be a big number when you increase the pool of lakes. Going back since the beginning, the month we had in 2017 and the entire 2018 season for the soil and water budget was almost $250,000 for those 2 years. We reduced that and spent $68,000 less than that budget. So now we have $68,000 to start the 2019 budget. That is done by, we obviously are overstaffed because we did not want to have problems with lines and inefficiency in getting people through the inspection process. The more experience you have, certainly 2018 gained a lot of experience, and 2019 and 2020 will as well, will enable you to improve that process. It's not unlike staffing wait staff at restaurants or to staffing cashier's lines at a supermarket. You learn how to staff them so you can decrease labor costs but be efficient when the traffic's up and not have labor staying around when it's down. So I guess what I'm saying is there's more to getting to sustainability than just asking for additional money from the state. You need that, but there are things we can do, and the only thing that will enable us to do that is to keep on monitoring the things that go on for the next 2 seasons based on the experience we've had in the last season in 1 month. So there is a high possibility that we can be sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Jeff?
Thank you for the chance to talk. My name is Jeff Burns. I live in Monticello. I'm also the Soil and Water Supervisor for District 2. I encourage the board to not delay action, to vote in favor of supporting the proposed plan. The county and several counties watching us have a lot at stake here. There's a lot of momentum. Correct. We don't have the next second year or third year detailed out, but I believe the momentum that we have created will create the awareness both in the county level and neighboring counties and at the state legislature to move this into a program that is sustainable. There's a second point. This is already March. We had a pretty cold winter, so the ice and the snow is probably going to be around for a while. But regardless of which plan we initiate, which plan we carry out, we are going to need time to organize it. Third, there's a significant change in the proposed plan, and that is the involvement of the active sports people in carrying out this program. That is the self-inspection. They will have to be trained, they will have to be certified, there will have to be some sort of documentation created. That's going to take time. And if we are going to be effective, we're going to need to initiate that program before the start of the fishing season. If we go into May 1st and say, oh, and by the way, we're going to initiate this new program, it is going to be a mess. We need to make a decision soon. We need to get going. We haven't created the training program. We haven't advertised it. Without that training program, I think you're going to find increasing opposition. With that training program, with the self-certification, I think you're going to get the active support of the fishing community, and that will make a big
Jeff,
difference.
how do you feel about a repealer on the ordinance as far as to keep the item going forward?
I like the idea of repealer. Unfortunately, that takes away some flexibility, but if we're going to do a good job, we need to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kathy Johnsrud from Wright County, Annandale. We had worked with the chair and the board last week regarding bringing in a special speaker regarding some expert testimony on the need for this program. Are you willing to let us proceed with that, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want, if this time we can move
Thank you
forward.
so much. Appreciate it. Again, Kathy Johnsrud from Wright County and Annandale. On behalf of the Wright County Regional Inspection Coalition, and I'll ask our speaker to come up and we'll start getting ready on the technology so we're ready right away. We are once again together in this room with an important decision before you. The decision today is to approve the 2019 plan after quite a bit of conversation already for the Wright Regional Inspection Program. We call it RIP. The first full year of the operations in 2018 went well. We'd like to highlight that the inspections for the lakes in the program increased 51% over 2017. If there was a wait time, the average wait time was very low, 30 seconds. And also 68 inspections failed, with 16 of those being zebra mussel infestations. Those violations and infestations were identified and corrected before accessing the lake. The 2019 plan, as Alicia described, has key elements which represent literally hundreds of meetings and thousands of hours of collaboration over the past year to fine-tune and improve the program. To help with the broader perspective on the need to have an action plan to control aquatic invasive species and approve the 2019 plan, the coalition has brought a speaker. We welcome William Scott Brown. He goes by Scott. Mr. Brown is the executive director of the Michigan Lake Stewardship Association. He braved the snow and wind yesterday to come from Grass Lake, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. His scientific background includes numerous scholarly publications and a recent advanced degree in natural resources and environmental science. His focus is on aquatic invasive species and, in particular, a deep scientific analysis of starry stonewort in the Vader's impact on Michigan. We believe his work and firsthand experience is important to hear about. With 2 lakes in Wright County recently infested with starry stonewort, 5 lakes in the last 3 years in Wright County with zebra mussels, and 2 lakes with flowering rush. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Well, thank the council for the opportunity to speak on behalf of lakes. Let me back up and say, Michigan has 83 counties, a state legislature, a Department of Natural Resources, and a DEQ.
Sure.
And I don't know how to put it except to say that everybody has abdicated their role in protecting our lakes from aquatic invasive species. Michigan has approximately 11,000 lakes, about 6,500 or so are greater than 5 acres. Literally thousands of them have public access. Either the public access is run by the Michigan DNR or the county or the township in many cases. So what's happened in the last 40 years, 50 years, is that our lakes, these thousands of lakes, become an interconnected, intensely interconnected network for the spread of aquatic invasive species. And the primary culprits, you hate to point fingers, is the recreational boating community and the fishing community, the folks that tow their boats back and forth between these inland lakes. Pretty much unregulated. None of our counties, to my knowledge, have had the discussion. I really admire this. Here's a county seriously talking about protecting their inland lakes against aquatic invasive species. Every lake in Michigan, every significant lake with a public access point at this point has 2 or 3 invasive species. The latest kid on the block represents an unprecedented threat to our inland lake ecosystem, starry stonewort, Nyctalopsis obtusa. Why? Because it comes from the northern latitudes of Europe and Asia, where conditions in the lake, calcium carbonate rich, healthy, clear, moderately productive ecosystems. Minnesota, Indiana, Pennsylvania, New York, and particularly Michigan are absolutely loaded with lakes that are capable of supporting this species. Right now, we believe we have somewhere between 1,000 and 2,500 lakes in Michigan that have been invaded by starry stonewort. This is an incredible ecosystem engineer that has the ability to grow just at explosive rates, creating meadows that basically cover the entire shallows of an inland lake ecosystem, preventing fish from spawning, preventing native aquatic plants from going. We've all heard about this, the situation over at Lake Coronis. Well, we've had several lakes in Michigan that have experienced the same thing on that level. Again, we believe that this, based on what we know in Michigan, the condition in Michigan lakes, we have somewhere between 1,000 and 2,500 lakes. The only way we're going to nip, it's like an epidemic, a flu epidemic or an epidemic of disease. The only way you're going to stop it is to prevent the further spread. And the spread is occurring through these public access points by boaters who haven't been trained, who aren't willing to, or be forced to undergo an inspection of their watercraft. We know this stuff, Eurasian water milfoil and starry stonewort in particular, are spread by unawares boaters who launch their boats with this stuff attached at the public access point. And this stuff, that's just an example of one inland lake about 8 miles from my home. Again, these 2 little lakes, they're interconnected down about 10 miles from my home. Starry stonewort was introduced in 2007, and this is just a couple of examples of the hundreds and perhaps thousands of lakes in Michigan that are enduring starry stonewort. Again, the conditions in our lakes are such that starry stonewort has found an ideal home. and it's the only thing in many cases that's going to grow our native plants. Our bluegills, our crappies, our largemouth bass communities are going to have a heck of a time spawning and continuing to exist. This picture was the other thing I might add about starry stonewort is it's an ice out to ice on species. In other words, it has a potentially long growing season. This picture was taken on December 1st. So this species had literally been growing from March to December, unlike the native aquatic plant that grows for 3 or 4 months a year before it goes into hibernation for the year. This stuff basically grows year-round and even continues to grow under the ice. I don't know what to say. If this doesn't represent a case for watercraft inspection and nipping the spread at the point of introduction, which is our public access sites. Had Michigan had this discussion, the type of discussion you've been having here for the last 15 or 20 minutes 30 years ago, we wouldn't have this situation. But now in Michigan, a state where we know inland lakes generate about $5 billion in support of our local economy. Boating, fishing, swimming, and just in support of recreation and the wonderful opportunities that our inland lakes provide for family recreation and sporting. I'm very disappointed in all of our state agencies that they haven't stepped up with greater resources that, to fight these species that provide, that represent such a grave threat to our inland lakes. But what I understand about the ecology here in Minnesota of the inland lakes, very much as it is in Michigan and Wisconsin. Moderately productive ecosystems, high in calcium carbonate, very high hard water lakes. This species is going to thrive. All it takes to spread is for one person to haul a small fragment from one lake to another, and voila, you've got another introduction. It represents let's put it this way, the most serious threat to our inland lakes in their history. Michigan has now become the world headquarters of starry stonewort. We have so many inland lakes supporting this. It would take hundreds of millions of dollars to combat it. Our state legislature certainly is not going to appropriate those funds. So that's why I admire the discussion you've been having. You're having a serious discussion about protecting our inland lakes from this stuff. A discussion that we should have had in Michigan decades ago, but didn't, and now we're paying the price. So,
when I appreciate you taking the time to talk with some of our legislators on this issue, I think that because from the top down, it's important, because I'm sure you wish you would have had these conversations with your Michigan legislators 10 years ago, and I appreciate you being here today and talking to us, and more importantly, talking to those in St. Paul right now that hold the greater purse in combating this issue. It's invaluable, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about starry stonewort. What I believe is the most serious threat to our inland lakes that we've ever witnessed. So, thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So, real quick here, I'm entertaining from the board. We had a scheduled committee of the whole at 10:30. I'm interested in possibly setting this issue aside for taking a 5-minute break and setting this issue aside for 15 minutes, addressing the ditch item that people are here for, that I'd imagine we could cover in about 15, 20 minutes, because I think this item here could take, what?
I don't know how many people are here for the ditch.
How many people are here for ditch 14?
Quite a few.
There's quite a few, and
Okay.
then we can come back to this issue, because this issue here could take another 45 minutes
Take
to...
a 5-minute break.
5-minute break, and we'll reconvene on ditch 14, and we will come back at about probably 10:50 on the AIS issue. But at this time, we're going to recess for 5 minutes to 10:35 and come back on the ditch 14 issue for those that have the scheduled meeting. Yeah, 15 minutes, yep.
Not ready
I
yet.
think, Mrs. Stein?
Steve,
Is this your,
that's Matt's?
oh, Matt's, okay. I knew somebody said it.
Matt. All right. So to be time sensitive, we're going to, I didn't catch your name again.
Joe Schneider.
Joe Schneider is going to address us. Right off the bat, he's been very patient with us and has other places to be, so I appreciate your time. And if you can keep it to, 3 minutes, I'd appreciate it.
Great. Mr. Chair and members of the board, my name is Joe Schneider. I live on Christmas Lake in the Metro, and I'm the president of the Minnesota Coalition of Lake Associations. I'm also the president of the Christmas Lake Homeowners Association. I'm going to ignore all the comments I was going to make based on the previous discussion, and I would like to really just focus in on two things: urgency and sustainability, because those appear to be the two conversations that had a great discussion today. Number one, I would say don't delay. Delays in this process, as you know, affect lots of things down the line. So to the extent that you can make a decision today to approve the plan, that is the strongest position that you can be at. Now, the second thing is recognize that the DNR will make adjustments, request adjustments to your plan. So you can submit the plan, they're going to ask you to change some things. So if you delay now, recognizing that there's going to be changes and iterations of the plan, that puts everything else behind. So to the extent you can keep the urgency on the table, I think that's really important. With regard to repealing the existing ordinance, you have time to repeal that ordinance and position the county to do whatever you choose to do next. But your goal, Commissioner Vetch, is to put your pressure on the DNR to make a decision. I would argue you may have other avenues to do that. One is to reach out directly to the commissioner. Commissioner Stroman of the DNR is new. I would tell you, after some conversations with her and being at a couple meetings with her, she is very responsive. So give her a chance. So I would urge the county to reach out to her directly to have a dialogue with her. Another approach you have is to have the county attorney put some pressure on the state to make a decision, because they are precluding you from taking the actions you'd like to make to protect your lakes. So there are probably some things you could do there. The Minnesota Environmental Rights Act may play into that. And even just submitting some pressure legally may force the DNR to move, because you are exactly right. We've seen the delays that they have in this process, and they are significant. Number three, I think it's 3, maybe 4. The DNR needs you to be firm in your support of this. If you waffle, they're going to walk away from it. You just have to be firm on this. If this is what you want to do, you have to be firm. And probably the most important thing, and this is Commissioner Burrell's main concern, is sustainability. That is a very real concern. You want to learn as much as you can about how this stuff works. And you want to make sure that if you're going to do this, you've got a chance of sustaining it and continuing it as you move forward. What I would like to suggest to you is there are other models for funding this that go beyond what we're even thinking and talking about today. And what I would urge you to do is move forward with 2019, because it is funded, and then set aside perhaps one of the next committee of the whole meetings where you can have a real discussion, and let's talk about some alternative funding mechanisms, because there are ideas that are being circulated right now. It's not just what we know. So you really need to get the alternative funding mechanism for 2020. You don't need it for 2019. So move forward with 2019. Get yourself structured, and I'm happy to be a part of those dialogues on how to fund this thing on a go-forward basis so you get sustainability. So that's my point. I urge you to move forward with the 2019 program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Sure, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the case that we've changed commissioners since last time, if we still had Commissioner Landwehr there, I'd be all in about making deadlines because I heard that gobble enough. I'm not, the fact that we have a new commissioner that seems to be taking it a little different direction. I don't want to handcuff her before she has a chance to fully understand this. That's why I want to give her a chance, and if she proves to be the same as Mr. Landwehr was, well, then it's see you later. And with that, I think it would be incumbent on us, no matter which way the mop's flopping here, it's going to leave a bad taste, because somebody's not going to like it. I mean, I'm going to have sportsmen or whatever come after me either way. But I would entertain a motion to approve this plan going forward for 2019 with the understanding that going forward, we are going to have meetings with the DNR and COLA and all these people to get these people at the table. And if they can't come figure out which way the wind blows, 2020, they're in trouble. Because we just can't have this year in, year out. The DNR has to be at the table. They have to be engaged. And the rest of you know that I'm a little disappointed with the DNR that they haven't stepped up and done their job. Because that's their statutorily, constitutionally, whatever. That's their job, and they're supposed to do it. Could they do a better job? Absolutely. They need to get this going. But with that, Mr. Chair, is a motion to proceed for 2019.
That was a motion?
Yes, it was.
To adopt the changes.
Adopting the changes and going forward, because it's funded this year, just going forward this year, and subsequently hold those meetings with the DNR and the people and try to get the players.
He has a motion, so there's no discussion until we have a second. Is there a second? Last time? Is there a second on that motion? For the lack of a second, Commissioner Potter's motion has died.
I thought that was the same motion that Commissioner Houston did earlier.
It was the second one, but he was made from a different one. It wasn't a second at this point, so it's still a second. But my question about it is now, I have concerns with not putting that pressure on having a repealer date, and I won't support it without a repealer date because the costly side of having our attorneys put pressure on them, and that side of it. It's going to be too soft or it's going to be too time consuming. I think the repealer is real because then they have to take a hard stance whether they like the program or they not, because they know if they don't like it, it will die.
Mr. Chair, that's why I didn't second his motion, because I didn't get a second last time. And I've had some discussions with some...
Payback.
No, not that. But I have had discussions with some people approached me, and they actually like the idea of the repeal date of April 15th to get the DNR on board with us. We need to, I know we have a new commissioner, but she seems friendlier than our past commissioner. And if we can get that, if we can get this going so we have a strong ordinance going forward and strong support, I think that's appropriate. So with that, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to accept the ordinance, the new ordinance as written.
You're not the ordinance, you're making a motion to accept the plan with the repealer?
With the repealer.
And we have
The repealer date is?
April 15th.
April 15th.
April 15th.
That will give our soil and water time to
Basically 45 days to get something.
because we still have a period for public comment, so.
But they'll be able to submit the application as of tomorrow, I
Right.
believe. I think they already have it on their desk already without the repealer date, but.
So Heidi Wolf and Adam Dahl have a draft of the plan. They've seen it for a couple of weeks, and the final draft was submitted at the same time it was submitted for the board meeting packet. So basically, once I get back to the office, I would give them this is approved by the county board via motion, and that public comment for the ordinance has started. That's the next step in today's meeting. So that's what the next steps would be, and then they'd move it up the chain towards the commissioner.
Mr. Chair, in the effort of making this effort move somewhere, because we've beaten this horse to death over and over again, I will second that just to get the ball moving somewhere, somehow. I mean, hopefully the DNR steps up or at least contacts us and tries to make some strides moving forward so we don't have to invoke the April 15th something here. Just to make them feel, we need to move this forward because you've all been sitting here for a long time. Something's got to happen. We can't table it. We can't do this. It's something's got to happen.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Husum, a second by Commissioner Potter to accept the plan with the 21-day exemption, the self-inspection, the changes to the on-site inspections, and having an April 15th repealer date, as well as some other modifications that were to the plan, with the additional lakes, bringing it to a total of 9 lakes. With that, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just want to reiterate real briefly that I cannot support it. I said this, it's equivalent to somebody who is considering going to college and they're picking out their classes and where they're going to live and everything else, and they know they're going to get $5,000 a year from mom and dad, and Aunt Helen gave them a gift here for, they'll get them, you know, a year and a half into it, but they don't have any long-range plan to make this work out, but yet they go, and then they're going to go into debt and everything else, and I think we're just putting the cart before the horse, and I can't support it.
Commissioner Breldy could be a really good student and get a scholarship in year 2.
There you go. I wish, you know what, though? If somebody out here said we have this scholarship that's going to go carry it, I said it would be a different story.
You know, Mr. Chair, I don't want to belabor this point too much, but with all the work that has gone into this for the last few years, and to come to the point where we're at, and to have the whole state watching this program to see, and yes, we have learned a lot from 17 to 18 and now going to 19, I just think it's very, very important for the efforts of everyone to keep this program going.
And then I said if they're going to do it, then every lake should be included.
Well, and that's what the goal is.
15 miles, you know.
Yep.
No, throughout the state.
But
whatever.
So,
you gotta start somewhere.
I don't know.
You have to start
call the
somewhere,
motion.
Charlie.
Okay, the question's been called. With that, we have.
That takes a 3/5
Of
majority.
course. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So then it's 4-1. The question's been called.
I didn't vote.
You didn't vote? All opposed?
No.
Aye.
Wait,
You're opposed?
you opposed to call the question?
No, that I am.
Okay, so we have the question's been called. It was a 3/5 vote, or 4/5 vote. I think, Mark, you were in favor of calling the question, okay? 4/5 vote. So the motion here, and there's a second by Commissioner Potter. All in favor of amending the program with a repealer date of April 15th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes on a 3-2 to the amended program to carry forward. With this point, we will be looking to open up a public hearing for the ordinance amendment.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. We'll need to schedule a public hearing date. Earliest you could do it would be March 12th. And I would note that the board normally has a 30-day notice policy that's only for the townships. It's up to the board whether or not you want to waive that 30-day requirement and go with the 10 days that are required under the statute. So if you waive that 30-day self-imposed requirement, we could do this on the 12th. Otherwise, we'll be looking at the end of March.
We have workshop.
So we could go to the following week. You want to go to the 19th? You want to bring it back on the 19th of March?
Yep.
All right, March 19th will be the public hearing for the ordinance amendment.
The ordinance amendment 19-2.
19-2.
Susan? Yep.
Do we want to set it at 10 o'clock, just so I don't...
Might also do it at
9:30 and
9:30
and we'll stop everything? Because
you don't know what's going to be here at that time.
I just want to make sure we accomplish all the business, because once we open up this public hearing, it might be quite lengthy, and at that point, I want to make sure that we have all the other business accomplished at that point.
You won't know. Well, that's fine.
I don't know. Administrator Lee?
I'd move it back a little bit because we're going to have the workshop. You're going to be potentially more items built up. So to get your normal business done, it might take you till at least 10:30.
So you recommend 10:30?
Let's try that.
All right, let's go 10:30. Okay. All right, so with that.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to set the public hearing for March 19th at 10:30.
And do I have a second?
Yep. Second.
Second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. For the public, anybody that would like to, any letters that were submitted in the past will not be part of this public record. At this point, if you'd like to submit them in either to administration or to the county, or to administration, any comments that you would like to be part of the record, we'll be starting to build that, so any letters of support or opposition, please turn them in prior to March 19th. And March 19th will give the opportunity for individuals to come and speak for or against the ordinance amendment. All right. Well, thank you everyone for the time. All right, we have just a short couple items here, and we'll be able to adjourn.
Voodoo dolls for all.
Do you guys want to give these guys? I'll give you, since there's a lot of people leaving, we'll take a 5-minute, or you have something to cite them?
We can just
You guys a question?
Oh, sure.
Mr. Chair, Monday starts camping reservations. So my question to you as a board is process for notification, because we'll book 75% of our camp spaces on Schroeder Park on Monday.
You know, I can't, it's loud. Can we just come back to this in 5 minutes? We're going to stop for 5 minutes, give everybody time. It'll get cleared out. I can't, this is loud.
Just give them 30 seconds.
No, it's going to be some discussion pieces.
No. They'll leave in 30 seconds.
Right, yeah, as soon as they leave.
We're fine, we're just holding off. I'm not going to go 5 minutes. I'm just going to stop here for, yeah.
But I mean, it won't, if you
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my question for you is just kind of business orientated. Our campground reservations for Wright County start Monday. Obviously, with what the action you just took, we're going to have to educate our users. We'll probably book 75% of our campsites for the season out on Monday morning by 10:30 a.m. So, providing ample notice to our users, how would you?
I would say at this point, hold off, because we don't know that the ordinance will be adopted. We don't know that we will get approval from the DNR. There's multiple things that can happen at this point. It's not a done deal. The ordinance could, the DNR could turn down the plan. The ordinance could be not adopted, in which place the program wouldn't go forward either. Unfortunately, I would say that you almost have to hold off till March 19th before you want to notify people.
We'll have to go back and pick out every campsite, email users about the potential impact.
You can't say, put something out there saying there's a potential of a requirement happening.
I mean, I guess
watch the county website for more information after.
I guess you could put
the end of March.
It's just a business thing. It's customer service. It's what we strive for.
I think you need to let them be aware of it.
Well, I think
instead of waiting until after the fact.
Putting that out there could put some impact on you guys. Not putting it out there could put some impact on you guys. So that's why I want you to.
I mean, I'm okay with what you want. I mean, I just want people to understand that it's not a definitive answer. At this
no,
point.
and that's why a potential new regulation.
That's
or
fine.
Cedar Lake, and it's all that is affecting is Cedar Lake.
Right.
It's just
The shorter campground.
We put it in, when they get their receipts, we'd put a notice on the bottom that this could happen.
Sure.
And
I think there's no reason why you can't.
Contact Commissioner Husum, because she's the commissioner in that district.
And just give a date back to circle back after April 15th, and we can tell you.
So you're okay with
better
giving some
details.
advance notice?
I think that's a good idea.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure, because they didn't want phone calls coming in saying, we seen this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good idea. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Now we are down to the, sorry, I've lost track where I'm at. Okay, Great River Regional Library Citizen Representative Appointment. We had, I think, six different applications for this position, which is great to see. I mean, all very, very qualified people.
Commissioner Potter, I was going to say, you're the representative on the board. I already have a person from my district on the library board.
I do.
And so does Commissioner Burrell. So essentially, I feel like I need to hold back from, making that decision.
I've made a request to Commissioner Potter that.
Push really hard.
That Monticello hasn't had a
There you
member on
go.
this board in quite some time, but.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioner Grissom, thank you for the input. And we try to make this so it's more of a representative of Wright County, the whole county, not just parts of it.
Right.
And with that being, we had a lot of real good qualified, and it has been a while since there's been one for Monticello. And being that my top two choices are up in that northeast quadrant area there, I'm just going to have to go with Melissa Fee from Monticello, because they have not had representation on that board for a while. As much as they'd like to, I'd want somebody from my district or my town or whatever. I want to try to make sure it's more fair representative, so everybody has a chance to get on this board. It's not just, it's a seat for me, it's a seat for my town or whatever. And I'm sure that some might agree or disagree with that, but I just got to do it. When we try to do all things, we try to do it based on fairness,
right.
And try to make sure that everybody, all regions get represented in here, and that would be my motion to go ahead and appoint Melissa Fee to the Great River Regional Library Board as a citizen representative.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden, and I appreciate that support there, Commissioner Potter, on that motion.
I would say that when you look at the map, I mean, essentially we have, Hokado, we've got Albion, we've got Monticello, so there's a good representation really in our county, of the different areas. And I mean, all of the letters we got, very impressive resumes that people sent in, so it wasn't an easy decision, that's for sure, so appreciate that.
And like I say, it's always, you miss Mr. Shovelin because that's a hard one to replace because he's been so engaged in everything there. But I still want the fairness. Our citizen reps have all been really good, engaged, and it's not me versus you, it's all of Wright County, the whole system wide that they're looking at.
Right.
And that's
good.
It's tough to go, but I say it's been a while since there's been somebody from Monticello on there, and that's kind of where I'm at on that, because you just got to make it so everybody has a chance, and we move this around a little bit, and maybe when one of the other ones term out, who knows where the next one will come from.
Exactly.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Welcome, Melissa Fee, and congratulations to joining the Great River Regional Library Board. Discussion on hiring an IT developer position.
Yes,
salary range.
I'll speak to that one, Mr. Chair. Just kind of bringing this forward, wearing both hats as bringing this forward to the board as well as kind of serving as the interim IT director. We did have interviews with qualified candidates, had a request over 12%. I'm kind of bringing it forward as a logistical thing. We don't have a personnel committee tomorrow. I don't know if you want to address these as a committee of the whole, or I know recently we did, administration just resolved this one. So curious on course of action to take here.
I'll make a motion that we approve the hiring of this person, since this position has been open for well over a year.
Yeah, you want to delegate the authority to administration on this item?
We got somebody that's willing to work for us.
You want your motion is to delegate the authority to
Delegate authority to administration to do that, and I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden and a second by Commissioner Potter to delegate the authority to negotiate this IT developer position. And I will say that I would support this as well, just because of the length of time that this position's been out there, and we've struggled very hard to try and get this position filled. So
this has been numerous recruitments. We're happy to have.
And this is in light of somebody who's opposed a number of those positions in that, but I understand this is time sensitive, and I want to be able to move forward with it. So
it's been at least a year and a half, I think, hasn't it?
It's been a long time.
Any other further discussion? None. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. I'm in light of time, unless anybody wants to argue it. It's already afternoon, and we have another meeting coming up.
One thing
you guys want to do advisory?
Mr. Chair, this has to do with Region 7W. First off, I got elected vice chair of that, which is all fine, Danny. The other one is we did some jurisdictional changes which affect Buffalo. Dag Avenue up at the high school is now like a major collector. And also now when we did that, changing the jurisdictional classification of that made them so now they're the winner on some of the federal money that gets thrown here. So congratulations to Buffalo. We got that.
Good.
We got some there. And the discussion was pretty, not really intense, but really enlightening of what's going on because jurisdictional classificational issues are all coming up all over the place. Do they fit what they're doing? And I applaud Buffalo for helping going forward and taking back that one road and changing how that boundary and all that thing goes. So it's, like I say, it's a good thing going forward.
Can you fight for Farmington then too, down by Delano?
I'm the one that, yeah, they're bridesmaids. When they come up short on the on the scoring criteria, I'm the one that told them about bonding options, and they took that at a 0.9% interest, which was incredible.
But I mean, I just think it shouldn't be a township road.
Well, it's one of the ones that's on the list to not to be a township road. So.
Okay.
That's all.
Is anybody else have any business that they want to get on record here before we adjourn?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
All I want to say is that the House and the Senate are looking at my governor's budget, increasing the city and the county
Local government aid?
Yeah, local government aid to bring us back up to 2002 amounts. And if you want to help the county not have to raise property taxes, that's the way to do it. So contact your local representative.
Rather pay it to the state.
Well, no, the state's already paying it. This is just bringing us up to where we used to be at one time. So contact your local representative.
Those of you that haven't been
With
elected
that, administration, do you guys have any comments you want to make at this time?
Nothing earth-shattering. We'll schedule tours for boardrooms on the 15th. We're looking at for March with BKV just to see a few of those.
March 15th?
We'll bring that to a future meeting to get that approved on the 5th. Been spending a lot of time in ERP. So.
Before we do that and getting into those details, do you think maybe we could have some kind of a vote to see if we want to postpone this project or for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years or whatever? Or is it we just keep going and I'm one, like, are we going to go so far and then, whatever. I guess I'd rather see, because I really want to see it just held off for a while, and I don't know if there's support to go ahead, that's fine, then we'll go ahead with the tours and stuff, but.
Well, I think there's been enough discussion where there's at least 3 people that are willing to continue moving forward until the bids are done.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think we can really, I don't think I can make my best decision for the taxpayers until we have all of the information, and that includes the bids, that includes the bonds, just what are we looking at? And we certainly know that, everything, we know all the pros and cons now, and we've weighed all those out for the last 2 years, so I think those are the final 2.
After listen to some of the public, even though it was a limited number because of the weather, I thought maybe there might be some rethinking, Let's just, okay.
All right. Nope.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, all right. We'll adjourn at 12:06.